What up, CCA campers? So I just recorded like half of this video and realized that my microphone wasn't plugged in, and now it's really dark and the fire's a little smaller, so if it's hard to see me, I'm sorry, I'm trying. And for those of you who have this conspiracy theory going where you're saying like, look, I think that Eli, he's shooting these videos all in a day or two and he just keeps changing his clothes in between just to make it look like it's a different day. Well, we're gonna jump into verse 17 where we left off last week, Philippians 3:17. Here Paul says, "Join together in following my examples, brothers and sisters, and just as you have us as a model, keep your eyes on those who live as we do." So remember when I said that Paul is a journalist? And by that I mean he's able to take a lot of information and break it down into as small amount as possible. Well, here he's starting to repeat himself a little bit. And you might be thinking like, well, if he's such a great journalist, why does he repeat himself? Well, there's a couple different spots where he does. And when he does do that, know that he wants to put such emphasis on this that he's going to say something sort of in the same way a little bit later on. So when he's saying, keep your eyes on those who live as we do, who are living for Christ, that's showing that this is really important. He's talked about this before. So pay attention to that. Let it stick in your head a little more. All right, verses 18 and 19 here. He says, "For as I have often told you before, and now tell you again, even with tears, many live as enemies of the cross of Christ. Their destiny is destruction, their God is their stomach, and their glory is in their shame. Their mind is set on earthly things." Right after Paul's over here encouraging the Christians at Philippi to look to those who are doing right and model their lives after them, he starts to warn about the flip side of looking to those who don't do right. And as Christians, we should be able to differentiate between what is good and what is bad. We should be able to have that discernment to look at someone and say, what they're doing here is right. This is something I want to model my life after. And what they're doing here is wrong, and I don't want to model my life after that. And sometimes certain people, actually, almost every time you know someone pretty well, you're gonna notice that they have certain things that they're doing really well and certain things they're not. And just because someone is a great Christian doesn't mean that when they mess up in a certain area that you can say, well, they're a great Christian, so I should be able to do this as well. No, we're also told to have discernment that when someone messes up, we can't blame it on them going, well, I did this because they do this. No, you are smart enough to know the difference. And so Paul here, he warns about three different people, three different kinds of things that people do where they're choosing the wrong path in ways that we shouldn't follow them. He says first, their God is their stomach. The second is their glory is in their shame. And the third is their mind is set on earthly things. So the first one, their God is their stomach. This one, I mean, it should be a little obvious, right? This is people who they let their desires control them. You know, if there's something that they want, they let that desire control their life, even if it's not what they should be doing, even if it's not what's best for them. What they want to do, what that desire is having them pull towards is just what controls their life. They don't decide, their desires do. The second thing is those who their glory is in their shame. So have you ever met a little kid before who, you know, they did something wrong right in front of you and they're so proud of it that, you know, they start to crack this giant smile and laugh, and then they run away because they know that they're going to get in trouble, but they're still so proud of that thing they did that they know is wrong. Now, look, let's be honest. We're all so much more mature than that child who does something that they know is wrong and they're proud of it, right? You know, we're way too mature to ever do anything like that, right? No, right? How many people do you know who they brag about some stupid thing that they did? You know, maybe they're like, oh my gosh, I got so drunk last night. Let me tell you all about it. Or yo man, check out what I stole from Walmart. Like I got this for free. I ripped them off. Isn't that awesome? Or maybe you're like me, when you were growing up and you saw a list of things that you shouldn't do. It's here's 10 rules not to do. You would go and be like, hey man, check this out. I'm gonna break all of these rules. Watch how fast I can do it. And lastly, there's those people who their mind is set on earthly things. Now, there's nothing wrong with caring about earthly things. You know, we're told to be wise with our money. We're told to take care of our stuff, to be good stewards of it. You know, the stuff here on earth, it's important to take care of your stuff, to be wise about it, and therefore to like actually, care about it a little bit. But the problem with this is when you're not just caring about your stuff and taking care of it, but you start to put your hope in those things where you go, oh, I feel safe because I know that I have this stuff. Or another problem is when we start to find our worth in things. This is probably where you guys relate to it a little more because, you probably don't have a big savings account that makes you feel safe. But you probably do feel like, oh, I have this awesome wardrobe. I have these awesome clothes. And because of that, I feel cool. Like this is who I am. Or maybe you got this nice new car for your birthday and you're going, look, I'm the guy who has a cool car. Or maybe you got some really awesome games and that's where you put your worth. You're like, without this, like, where would I be? And that's where the problem is. It's not when we care about our stuff and take care of it, but it's when our stuff is where we find our identity, where we find our hope, and it's all we can think about. All right, I'm gonna throw some more wood on this fire because it's dying out. All right, so while I was putting some wood on the fire, I looked at the video and it's very dark. Campfire is definitely more of an in-person thing, but hopefully me standing a little bit closer to the fire and sweating it out for you guys, you'll be able to actually see me a little better. So I'm gonna stand a little bit closer. All right, let's keep reading here. He says, but our citizenship is in heaven, and we eagerly await a Savior from there, the Lord Jesus Christ, who, by the power that enables him to bring everything under his control, will transform our lowly bodies so that they will be like his glorious body. Now, this is something that doesn't get talked about a lot, at least not in the Christian circles that I'm in. We don't spend a lot of our time expecting Jesus to come back, especially not in our lifetime. It's not something that we doubt is going to happen. We just don't think about it, and we don't think it's going to be happening any minute now. This isn't how the Christians in the first century behaved. They were always looking ahead to the time when Jesus would be coming back. They're looking with hope and with joy for when that moment comes. And perhaps this is another place where Paul found that joy in, thinking about one day Jesus is going to come back and we're going to get to experience him there again. And perhaps this is another place where Paul found that joy, the possibility that he might be alive when Jesus came back. And although it didn't happen in his time, there's always a chance that we'll get to see that, to experience that as Jesus comes back again. All right, we're going to finish off with verses 1-3 because I am melting by this fire. So we're going to make this a short one tonight. Here he says, therefore, my brothers and sisters, you whom I love and long for, my joy and my crown, stand firm in the Lord in this way, dear friends. I plead, I have no idea how to pronounce that.
Euodia, and I implore Syntyche
to be of the same mind in the Lord. Yes, and I ask you, my true companion, help these women since they have contended at my side in the cause of the gospel, along with Clement and the rest of my co-workers whose names are in the book of life. This entire book of Philippians, we see that Paul, he just keeps showing his love to the people at Philippi. And it's honestly inspiring. Like, after reading through and studying this letter, it makes me want to go and write some letters of encouragement to some of my Christian friends, and not like a text, but an actual letter where you need to like put a stamp on it to make sure it gets there. The way that Paul loves these people, it truly is inspiring. Let's keep looking at this. He starts us off with the word therefore, which ties this to everything that he was saying before. It's like, now that I've given all of these warnings, these instructions and encouragement, do this. Stand firm in the Lord. All right, so now who are these two women with really hard names to pronounce?
Euodia and Syntyche.
All right, so it's actually sort of funny because you see, Euodia and Syntyche, their names, they have these meanings. So Euodia means prosperous journey, and Syntyche means pleasant acquaintance. And Paul's over here and he's telling prosperous journey and pleasant acquaintance to agree with one another in the Lord. And that just sort of makes me laugh. It's sort of like you have someone their name is super nice person, and you're writing a letter to the church that they're a part of, and someone's up there reading the letter to the entire congregation. Oh, and hey, super nice person, stop being a jerk. You know, it's like, that's your name and you're doing the opposite of it. I don't know. I find that funny. It makes me laugh a little bit. We see that these two women, they would contend alongside Paul. And to contend, it's to like struggle, to overcome or to debate. So these women, they fought alongside Paul in the past, but right now they're fighting with each other. And as Christians, it's important that when we have disagreements, that we do our best to work them out. And I know that none of you are like this, but sometimes, just sometimes, when you're fighting with someone and you're annoyed with them at what they're saying, it's almost like no matter what they say, you're trying to find the wrong thing in it, and you're like, yeah, but what about this other horrible thing you did? And you really can't get much ground with just the two of you. And Paul knew that. Paul knew that some people, they can't really work their stuff out together with just the two of them. So he asks his true companion, which we're not 100% sure who this person is who's Paul's talking to, but he asks this guy or woman to go and help them come together and sort of to mediate this problem with them. And this is something that we often need to do in our own lives. When we're having an issue with someone else, sometimes maybe we need to go out and find that third party to come in and help us with our problems. Because as Christians, we're not meant to sit there and infight, to always be butting heads and to lead to hating each other. No, we're supposed to come together and love one another. And to love one another, sometimes it means to I guess for lack of a better word, to fight, but to work on your disagreements. You don't just pretend that everything's happy, but you need to work on them, and you need to work on them in a healthy way. So this is Paul's example here, at least for these two people. Get a third party to help you out with that disagreement. All right, so we got a super dark video today, so I'm gonna cut it a little short, make this a shorter one today, and we're gonna finish off tomorrow with our last video, finishing up Philippians chapter 4. All right, guys, see you then. Peace.